or something. Used all the cloud space. Technically incompetent, but yes, I think this project is about authenticity, that those people get a lot of money for doing their podcasts, and they're good, like Brene Brown, I just find it a bit commercial. Yeah. Then I keep forgetting the jazz musician. He's like the patron saint, I think, of this group, where he says if they're talking, they're not fighting. He got 400 people to leave the KKK.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then there's a movie being made. Okay. What's that called? Not in my notes. But yeah, they're getting crowdfunding. Americans are very efficient and very driven. So yeah, it seems like, this project is like about Australians and how we're very reserved. We don't want to upset. We've got that tall poppy thing. Yeah, whatever that is. And people, they keep the status quo because we're so comfortable here, and we don't have that. I don't know if it's the Protestant work ethic. I was talking to someone about it. We're quite a Catholic-based culture.
Yeah, well, Douglas Murray was mentioning that the other day.
What's that?
Douglas Murray mentioned that the other day in something I was listening to.
Oh, Douglas Murray. Are you able to sit closer? Are you able to sit closer, or it's not? It's not possible.
No, it's about as close as.
Yeah, you look great. I think.
Unless they're going to.
Women. I think women worry. We do worry about our looks. I think you look. Yeah, you look well.
I look well for the first time in ages, but.
Oh yeah.
I would wear a different top. It's still wet. It's all dark. Oh well, it's all right.
Yeah, well, I want to, because, I'm going to have you and then Kate and the boys, Mark, he's the ex-cop, and Troy's the younger guy that I met. His interest is kind of setting up men's rights groups, and whether they're very interested in having discussions about, with feminist groups, not as a fight. Same thing. They want to just discuss how men it's possibly necessary now to start involving young men that are starting to fall behind, and also the domestic violence. What's that?
I think it's probably quite reasonable. It's probably a little bit too late. Hopefully it won't be too late, but certainly should have been. It should have been always there. Like at least 5 or 10 years. Into it. They've got feminist studies, but there's no masculinist studies, and now there's all sorts of trouble flying all over the place, and the arts and humanities are full of woke culture and what have you, so I think it's perfect.
Yeah.
Of course, do you mean they're going to take on the fourth wave, fifth wave feminists?
Yeah, what do you find, what do you define as fourth and fifth wave? Because I guess the third, I'm sitting in class, and they're even saying, the professors, well, at least at Swinburne, they're into the idea of open discussion, and they're saying you don't even have to agree that there's a third wave. So I think the third wave, I can't even remember, that's kind of the 2000s. Or no, from the 90s, I'd say the third wave, is it? I don't know. But what's the fourth and the fifth wave, do you think?
I think it's just where genders, feminism sort of mixed in with the gender ideals, or the gender potentials, or the gender studies, sort of mixed in with feminism. Feminism doesn't appear to be very strong as it was in the first, second, third wave. And now we're getting into that sort of more open gender space with the feminists. So the feminists seem to be certainly nowhere near the way they were. They're very it's hard to describe from what I've seen. Very, very different. very, very different, and almost regressive, and allowing a ladder up for other isms to sort of stand on the back of feminism, and and there seems to be some rights, women's rights, getting messed around a little bit there. That were hard ones. So how that pans out in the future, we'll see. But like, it seems to be causing quite a lot of trouble, and people are only just starting to wake up to it as well. So.
I read kind of a page here and there. Yeah, she's like a, what do you call it, heretic of the feminists. She was saying that they've gotten rid of sexology, and sexology studies biology of men and women, you know, that whole thing about sex. And of course it has homosexuality and androgyny and, you know. Yeah. But the gender studies, because it's all a social construct, and fucking, you know, sorry, but this is meant to be the Bible of feminism, and I don't know if people have read it, the next generations, maybe the fourth and fifth wave. This is about how we're caught in our biology, but, you know, it's a work of philosophy. We're caught in our biology and our higher thinking, whatever that is. You know, it's a mystery why humans are, you know, not like animals. So, yeah, it's the study of women caught in their biology of, you know, everything, being weaker. I mean, yeah, you know, I guess you got to generalise it a little bit, and it was written in 1949, but I identified just too much. There's you know, the chapter about marriage and how you just torture each other, and a whole chapter about girlhood, being a girl. It's just exactly, yeah. But, you know, she tries to describe different groups of people, you know, especially like cultures. She'll go, the French are like this, Americans, you know, not Australians, but we probably follow the English way of growing up, and how girls get caught in
yeah.
So yeah, what we're reading with sexology, yes, and gender, like gender studies is now. Well, from my classes, but most recent as well, they don't seem to discredit any knowledge, but then the students seem to be caught in this frenzy. They're the ones, but then I don't see the teachers really educating them, and I think that they should everyone doing arts or whatever, there's some mystery why philosophy disappeared. I don't know if it's much of a mystery. A philosophy teacher said that philosophy became a shit subject where they just parlour games, you know, they just try and outdo each other about how theory can get more complicated instead of starting with a foundation of. What's that?
They're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. That's something that philosophy is sort of going off to the grey area. Like throughout the 90s, I watched all the philosophy departments just slow down by the noughties. They were really shut down. They were forcing other undergrads to pick up philosophy, to keep the philosophy departments open, and all those kinds of things. And sort of watching how it's sort of changed. Philosophy departments have changed throughout the bigger universities in the world. It's done a very, very similar thing. But like, people aren't getting the base of the pyramid. So no one's learning the base of the pyramid, and they seem to be jumping straight into the top, and then they're jumping in straight into postmodernism without anything to weigh it up against. So like, they don't know what the old truths are or what's been perceived as truth for a long time. They just jump straight in head first into postmodernism. And
is it because they don't trust? They don't trust. They just go, it was all men. Like, I did an essay about feminist philosophy, and they do look at knowledge as created by men, but they never said that it was false. They just said there were parts missing. So then they've taken, I don't know if that's true yet, because in the 90s I was around you and we were in the same friendship group. But yeah, that's interesting. It looks like the 90s, because all the readings I'm getting are from the 90s. So there was definitely some shift, and it's good to hear, people that were there and what was happening. And it seems to be just the same thing, kind of regurgitating the 90s, but they're simplifying it or something. Like the readings were so, they were all chapters out of books, and the books were these big volumes about everything, a whole feminist volume, and then you're just reading one chapter about whatever's relevant to your weekly topic. But so much was written, I think, in the 90s. Maybe Judith Butler, she must have hit the big time.
The Gender Trouble. That was kind of a sort of a baby Bible for 3 or 4 years there, through coasting through. Every other person had a copy of it with us, so that was kind of new ideas, I suppose, that they're constructed.
Yeah, I'd like to read it. So that was her volume.
Yeah.
But then everyone's just kind of listening to those, whether it's the Guardian articles or maybe it's the media that are that influential, and they seem to cite, research that's social, it's sociology, it's social sciences. It's not science where it's, this is we've discovered it. Social sciences are never like the end, they just uncover statistics. Someone was, saying, statistics, they're important, but it is how you sum up the statistics. So you can just grab a set of statistics and make it fit what you want it to. Yeah. Yeah, like, I was reading the program that my sister posted about how we're going to eradicate domestic violence, and this is the first step is calling it out, and the basis of it was that respect, and I should be reading that research that they're using to develop this program. I can't just rant and rave and allow people, to go against it without challenging them. But this idea, I think it's good where they're saying you discuss with children so that you can bring them up differently. But then when they say you got to call out jokes, that our male peers, if their behaviour isn't on, you don't have a discussion. You just disapprove. And
so this is the new governmental standard, or is it the new preference standard, or it's through your?
Well, it's a program that started the Victorian government.
Yeah.
16 days. I think we're on like day 7 of 16 days of 16 ways of 16 ways of what's that word? The social justice warriors. What are they? They're advocates. They're not advocates. They're activists. I was thinking of the word. Yeah, activity. They want to act instead of discuss and learn. Everyone wants to act, I suppose.
Yeah.
Like feminism, it's all about action and change.
Okay.
Yeah, when I'm talking, I see your lips move, but it's only allowing me to talk. What were you saying?
Oh, okay. No, I was just saying what you're saying. It's like what they're coming out with is really good stuff, but all the activists are out there, and a lot of like with the DV stuff, that's very important and very reasonable. Then throughout lots of the sort of Western countries, there's a lot of things that are sort of stepping over what is very usable and very reasonable and going into something that seems more like re-education camps or re-education spaces. And a lot of those sort of social justice people are very young, and there's nothing wrong with that. We all did similar things when we were that age, but they're very moralistic. very moralistic. They can't really back why they're doing it. They're sort of doing it sort of out of some sort of strange moral outrage.
Yeah.
So they don't seem to have any. If you were to open up a discussion on why is morals, they can't really tell you why. It's sort of like some sort of moral outrage, just some sort of basic, sort of almost like a, what is it called? Like a wave effect of moral outrage for no real reason.
Yeah.
And a lot of people start joining hands and joining in that moral outrage, and then completely decimating people in front of them, or whatever, whatever, like, sort of goes into the cancellation type things where they start cancelling everyone when there's a lot of the time there's nothing that's not even very reasonable as to why someone's been cancelled, but they can cancel you right out of the face of the earth now just with basic moral outrage. So, and that goes over the top of things like DV that's been sort of government introduced, then that's very good stuff. That's very usable. Teaching kids a new way of being, that's okay. They've always done that. They've always done it at the sort of school age. So it's really good that we've got to a space where we can teach the children about those types of things, and that they're not great. But then there's lots of other things where, across the world, where they're sort of taking on this re-education of, the neighbours, re-education of the in Scotland, they're allowed to dob in the children, dob the parents in.
Oh, wow.
Canada, they can dob the parents in for saying offensive words, and those parents can be taken away and charged and put in jail. And that's what sort of happened with taking that line. So I can't imagine Victorian government's doing anything beyond what's regular and normal. But the laws in that same vein has been taken over in Scotland and in Canada, to where the parents can be taken away to jail because the 10-year-old is offended, essentially. But that's got nothing to do with DV. It's more to do with, like you might say something.
Well, kind of, yeah. It's still, in the family.
Or someone at work or something like that in your own home, and you can be charged for it if the children get upset at you. So it's an interesting line that they're sort of travelling with.
Yeah, and that sounds reasonable. If your parents were beating you or whatever, it sounds reasonable. Oh, you're going to dob them in. And I don't think people that are being traumatised or their parents are neglecting them, they're not even going to dob in their parents, because it's a whole nother dynamic where they, I don't know if it's because I'm interested in class as well. I kind of think all this crap, or not crap, intersectionality and whatever, that we should be looking at the class. And I keep thinking, this all comes from Karl Marx, but I'm not a Marxist, in the way people are. He was a philosopher. This is what I've been telling myself today. Marx was this, and another essay I did on standpoint theory within feminist philosophy. He made that up. The idea that your standpoint is knowledge, is more knowledge. It's like higher knowledge. Like the lower classes are the only ones that can educate you about their life. And we're not the only ones. That's the best knowledge. It's first-hand experience. And I suppose a lot of research is about, I don't know if that's phenomenology, phenomenology is about experience. And there's, that argument about are your experiences better knowledge than theory or something. And there's a whole lot there that I don't know. But, standpoint theory. So that, it started with the lower classes, the proletariat, when they got knowledge about their class, because you're actually ignorant that you're in a lower class. You just think this is life. And then I think Marx thought that if you just educated them and showed them that they were the underclass, they were being exploited, that they would just naturally rise up. And today's Marxists are trying to trigger that or something. They think it's that maybe they've only read his manifesto or whatever and missed out on all the other good stuff. And then the feminists brought the standpoint theory about women into it, and how knowledge was created by men up until recently, and a few things are missing about, especially in medicine, and how they only used men's bodies as in researching women and their...
I wouldn't think that would be there we go. You think they'd at least get some sort of sample of women?
Yeah.
That's really strange.
Well, maybe women and men are so separated that, they would have just, experimented on lower class women because they were less important, I suppose, back then.
Yeah.
They would have,
There's plenty of that. It's pretty strange.
Well, there was a moral hierarchy back then from the conservative side. So, if you were a prostitute or something, and the difference between living and dying is that you have to be a prostitute. You're still considered immoral, because women don't do that. And now, sex work, sex work is it's a normal job. You can't, the very hard left. I was watching Q&A, they had a sex worker, and she wasn't very articulate, they could have had someone better. She was just being really dirty and kind of, I don't know. I just don't, Q&A is not...
You never see anybody that does that. It's not like that. I suppose you're going to be... Oh, no, there was that. I think she was an aeronautical engineer that they had on Q&A a couple 2 or 3 years ago. She wrote a book, and they put her on Q&A, and the whole episode was about that, I think, from memory. And they had 2 or 3 conservative women on the panel, and she was was she British or American? I don't remember. She was an aeronautical engineer. She's quite a noteworthy girl, and that's how she managed to get her degree together or whatever. And then she wrote, and I think she'd been doxxed, so she wrote a book or something. Right. And that's an interesting episode.
Yeah, no, that sounds very interesting. It's just a bizarre thing because I'd like to start the whole left and right political discussion. Yeah, I'm very interested in because you spend a lot of time researching, and you can't. And I lost interest in kind of the conservative side of politics. I think I just lost interest in politics when Bernie Sanders was out. I don't know. I mean, it's a pipe dream that I just think because he was a good man, he might have had wrong ideas about how it was going to change. It was only going to work with someone.
Well, they say Kamala is sort of his best friend, so because I think she's very influenced by Bernie, so it'll be interesting to see how those two work over the course of the next 4 to 8 years.
Well, I know nothing about it, but I think media.
I sort of saw her a little bit, but it'd be interesting to see what she does.
Probably talk to Kate maybe more about, I don't know, but no, we've talked about, because I have the question about how women relate to other women, but, as normal, we just talk about the, what comes up spontaneously, so I don't know how many minutes it's been. Maybe I'll just stop it and then we'll just do another 10 minutes.
We'll check out now.